Sorry, this time I am using headphones and not letting my speakers actually play. I think the only thing you'll probably hear is the whirring of the AC because I am a very hot boy and I need to keep cool.
Yeah, no worries. I totally get that. Meanwhile, it's a balmy and like egregiously warm 56 degrees here, so
I am so envious. You have no clue. Hi, I'm Jay.
and I'm Caleb.
This is 99.99% nonsense. No, I don't like heat. And my next stop for this work gig is going to be Viva Las Vegas in Nevada. I've been tracking the weather, and at night it's maybe 60 at the lowest. Um, and I will be working overnight shifts on set, so it's good. I mean, it might be shorts weather. It might be shorts weather, but the one thing I have to keep on about is the dirt because it's going to be outdoors, or the dust
Yeah,
for the most part.
dust. Yeah, no. Vegas is really dusty. I mean, that comes with the territory of being in the middle of the desert.
True, but with all these tall buildings, with all these hotels, that would you would think that the wind would not be giant wind tunnels, but they're giant wind tunnels.
Well, yeah. I mean, isn't this strip basically almost perfectly straight, which means that any wind that is generated just gets funneled?
We don't like to talk about that, okay? I mean, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Yeah,
So,
the wind does not.
no, it does not. Nor does the sun, and nor does the cold, because it is a desert. So, when it gets cold, God, it's cold. But this time
What?
around, as far as it goes, it's might be on the mild side.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's the game plan. We're recording this a couple weeks earlier because, yeah, boy, this guy, the tall one who lives in Los Angeles, is going to be out of state. Oh, I could say out of state. I was about to say out of town, but out of town does work as well. But out of state for a
Mm-hmm.
couple weeks, and we're doing a lot. We're getting some stuff in. We're having some fun times and catching up because let me tell you, the 2 weeks that we recorded early, there was a lot that went on, and my sleep schedule was
So,
completely debunked.
I mean, debunked. You've disproven your sleep, is what you're saying. You went
Yeah,
you went and scientifically disproved sleep for
I
yourself.
mean, exactly. There was none, so there was no sleep. I started off working like because they're 12-hour days for the most part,
Okay.
um, and the way that it was scheduled for me was that I worked mornings, and I'm a night owl to begin with.
Uh huh.
And to be expected, I was like, all right, maybe we'll get some night owl time, which we did eventually, but at the cost of initially working like waking up at 5 6 in the morning, which is close to where I go to sleep. I usually fall asleep anywhere between 1:30 to 2:30. Um,
Wow.
I know, it's late, but to me, I only get 6 hours of sleep naturally, so I wake up at like 8:30, 9:30, which isn't horrible, right?
No, that works especially for your type of schedule as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I had to shift those hours a little earlier, and then a few days in, then all of a sudden we go to night shift. So I didn't have a day to mildly adapt. I went straight from working mornings and then trying to either stay up as late as I can or go to sleep and wake up early as I can and then do the night shift. This time around, going to Vegas, it'll be nights, so it's going to be a better, mild adjustment.
Yeah, for you, especially since you're used to staying up late and you basically have worked that same shift for, you know, the
Years.
years. Uh,
Yeah.
so are you getting like a full four? Like you said, 12-hour days. Are you like 4 on, 3 off, or how's that working?
So the way that it works, it's very interesting. because when it comes to entertainment, like it depends on what they can do and what they want to do, and
Uh-huh.
there's also a clear difference between union and non-union. I fall into the category of non-union, so technically they could do whatever the fuck they want from me. So like
Mhm.
this whole like going to days and then shifting over to night, like they could have literally had me do um go for like less than 8 hours because I'm not union. I'm not required to meet those means, but they do it because it's like, bro, we want you to like, just in general for filming. It's just like, oh yeah, we just want you to be functional, and then come back in. No clopening
Yeah.
kind of mentality, kind of stuff. Um, but the way that the work schedule works is, I believe they are required to not give you full 7 days of work. Um,
Okay.
right? And and I think that's also depending per state as well. So here in California, it's like you cannot work 7 days straight, especially for 12 hours. Um, so the way they do a workaround for it, because I think it's labor laws. I think is the reason being.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
it's technically you're not supposed to have two scheduled shifts within 8 hours of each other.
well,
Is
yeah,
my
but
understanding.
that,
Yeah.
but also when it comes to a full work week, like
Mhm.
it's either a required certain amount of hours or it's a required certain amount of days.
Mhm.
And there tends to be workarounds where they'll give you your 1 or 2 days off at the beginning of your work week. So then when the work week ends, because it's weekly, that they could just put you on. So you could technically work 12 days straight if they want
Oh
you to.
yeah, if you have 4 days on either side, or 2 days on either
On either
side.
side. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, when I did it here in LA, it was pretty close to that. But I mean, to me, I was up and at 'em because this has been like the most, not only physical, but like the most work that I've been able to do since recovering from COVID. And
Yeah.
it's always an interesting concept to bring to the people that I've worked with, which I've made some very awesome like friends and people that we have a couple people that we might be doing D&D with over there too, which is going to be really sick.
Oh, okay.
So
That
yeah,
that's exciting. That is super
yeah,
stoked. Yeah.
yeah. The fun part about it is that some of the people that I work with have no experience like being like a super nerd,
Mhm.
and just because the whole nerd fandom realm is starting to make its way everywhere, like mostly mainstream type stuff,
Yeah, no, it's
that
almost in the cultural zeitgeist. It's like right on the cusp of being everyone's a nerd. That's
yeah,
just the way it works.
yeah, exactly. So there's a few of us who have played and are willing to play that will make short campaigns, like one nighters,
One
pretty
shots.
much
Yep.
one shots, just to get some people in. And if those one shots end up taking a little too long, then there's four of us that I know that are super down to do it.
Uh-huh.
But we could just like make 2 or 3 characters that anyone could jump in, just so like they get a feel of like, oh, this is how it's played, or like this is a taste of how it's actually played. Because I can't imagine doing a full ass campaign while working 2 weeks when yeah. So
Oh yeah, no, you're not getting around to that, but you could totally do a bunch of like really fun like heists, or like you could plan like a bank robbery or something, or like you could do any number of like really small w- like you could have, if you built a campaign around your entire group being just like a group of thieves or just a group of bandits, or like you you essentially have to play the bad guys, or you could just be like Saturday morning cartoons. Nothing from the previous encounter actually matters to what's
right,
going
right,
on like right now. Like you could
right.
basically do any form of like the early like 2000s cartoon shenanigans and you'd be fine.
Yeah, exactly. And as far as that goes, it's like I think those types of campaigns or types of listings kind of make sense for those who are new, because it's like heist. You think of all these heist movies, right? Oceans,
Yeah.
um, Fast and Furious. I guess the Fast series is consider that as well.
Well, I mean, they've had several wonderful heists throughout the Fast series, so yes, Actually,
Yeah,
no. The entire Fast series is a heist movie
yeah. So
because they steal something in every single movie.
yeah, I think the only one the I think the only one that really wasn't was Tokyo Drift.
No,
Um,
no, because uh uh what's his name? It's not Takashi. What's his name? Uh in if I remember correctly, it was a heist movie because during the scene where Han was being like, when Han died, quote unquote, anyone who hasn't seen Fast 9, spoilers. When Han, quote unquote, died, he was running away because uh, DK, the other DK dude, whatever his name is, I feel like his name is Takashi. It could be wrong. I could be wrong.
we have
But
to. This is another series that we're gonna have to literally
we're gonna
watch.
deep dive into Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift.
uh,
But like, don't get me wrong, I love the Fast series, but I'm pretty sure there was at least a single theft in that movie. But
okay.
was it a heist movie? No, it wasn't a heist
I
movie.
I
So,
don't think it was a heist movie, but or other ones since we're talking Vegas here. Now you can see me. There you go.
yeah, now you see me.
Now you see me.
And that's an amazing. The first one is great. I haven't seen the second one, and most people forget that there is a second one, and it's probably for the best.
The second one isn't horrible. Like the first one, fantastic for what it was. I
Yeah.
mean, the cast was
Brilliant
very
cast.
entertaining.
Yeah,
Um,
very entertaining cast.
the second one was just as entertaining, but it I don't know. You'll have to watch it. We'll have to watch it. Another movie on the list. At this point, I think we
Another
have
one.
enough. I think major key right now. Anyway, I think we have a bunch of movies already listed and queued up that we need to get done.
Yeah,
Um,
no, but you are running away every other weekend or every other week at this point. In working.
yeah.
Why do you have to work, man? Like, why do we all have to work? No, I'm not. I'm just kidding. I'm super stoked that you have this opportunity to get into, like, that world because, like, you've always been around it. You've always been, like,
Yeah.
nearby. But, like, now that you're working by, you can, rub elbows and, shake babies. Like,
Oh God, I was just thinking about the baby just whiplashing and then that no neck. You're just like bobble 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 bobble
yeah,
bobble
no,
bobble
no.
bobble bobble.
The shake babies, kiss hands and shake babies. It's kiss babies and shake hands. But like,
Yeah.
I can't remember who said like where it's from, but I feel like Zap Brannigan from Futurama is the most like prominent one I remember hearing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Zap
yeah.
Brannigan,
Zap
Captain.
Brannigan. Captain Zap Brannigan. I know he's supposed to be like a really, really like posterized version of like Kirk from Star Trek.
I mean, yeah,
He's supposed to be like a less Shatner.
yeah, but he ends up being very flamboyant, and I love the short shorts.
Yeah,
No,
it's not even like I don't. Are they short shorts? I thought it was like a mini skirt.
I think you're right.
Like I could have swore it was a mini skirt. It might be short shorts, but I feel like it's a mini skirt.
I think you're right. And for those who don't know who we're referring to, this is a side character, a non. Why am I blanking on the type of character he is? For the show Futurama.
He's a tertiary
Tertiary-
character from
yeah.
Futurama.
Yeah.
He's not particularly consequential, but he shows up every once in a while whenever they need something to do with greater space or anytime they want to get the government involved without having the actual government involved, or anytime they want to make an allegory about the military whenever they don't actually want to say the military.
Yeah.
Because he's Space Force.
He really is. Like, to be honest,
Yeah.
like he really is. I'm sure the idea probably came from Zap Brannigan and Futurama, but you could technically say Simpsons did it, and you're still right because Futurama is in the same world of the Simpsons. They're under Matt Groening's.
Oh, I didn't know that they're like
Yeah.
pseudo connected. It's like how
Yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and uh, Daredevil are in the same universe.
Oh, that I was thinking like, how is that possible? I was
No,
like thinking
it's because
comics.
the hand and the foot. They're
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
they're
yeah.
the
It's
same. They're like sister ninja clans or whatever.
something. They're from the same body, basically.
Yeah, yeah, no.
It took me a second when you were saying that. I was like, what? And then I made the connection. But
Yeah,
yeah, Caleb covered it as soon as it talked about the ninja clans that are both nemesis to
yep,
the TMNT and the Daredevil.
yep.
Speaking of which, really enjoyed his cameo in No Way Home.
That was
And
spectacular. Yeah,
No Way Home is now available on. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to do this advertisement like that. Free promo. No, well, but it is a movie that I do
we
enjoy.
already did a full special about it. That's a free promo if there ever was one.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. But as far as pre promo English, I could totally speak it. As far as not primos, free promos go. There you go. I could speak English very well. Thank you very much.
It's my
Have you gotten
native
a chance?
tongue.
Oh no, not at all. I speak Klingon. No, I don't. No, I
Yeah.
have. Star Trek is not my forte, so I cannot. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't
I,
do it.
I wouldn't even begin to try to speak Klingon because not only have I never actually like watched enough Star Trek to be even
Hmm.
remotely like auditorially linked to the style of speech Klingon is, I've never deep delved enough to even begin to like try to form those sounds with my mouth normally.
No, no, not at all. The closest thing I think I've ever gotten to hearing full Klingon was from Daddy Daycare with Eddie Murphy and was it Steve Zahn?
Never watched it. And quite frankly, I probably never will. I have nothing against Eddie Murphy. I've seen a couple of his movies that were really, really, really good. Beverly Hills Cop is one of them. Like,
Axel Foley. I got to go with it.
Axel Foley is like, I love Beverly Hills Cop 1, 2, and 3. Like, I actually like all three of them. Like, for
Ah,
their own reasons.
of
Like,
course.
because who doesn't want a bazooka microwave? Like, I just think that's hilarious.
But you also have to think of the ridiculousness of the era too. Like there was a lot
Well,
of
yeah,
things. There was a lot of
yeah.
things that didn't make that were not physics approved.
No, no,
Movie
it's a
magic.
buddy cop comedy. You're not supposed to actually like. You're not supposed to think of it as like actually being like serious at all in the slightest, and that's why I found it so endearing for Axel Foley, and at least for the first two. The third one, once again, they jumped the shark on that one, but I still enjoy it because it's hilarious. It's just lesser.
Yeah. Do you
I
think?
think they did. I think they did a very similar thing with Men in Black, because one is great, two is
Yeah.
like worse than one, three is better than no. Three, actually, I have an
Oh,
inordinate amount of respect for Men in Black 2. I know a lot of people hate Men in Black 2, but I actually really liked Men in Black 2.
yeah. I actually really enjoyed Johnny Knoxville's part in that movie for
Yeah, no,
who
like,
knows
him
what
with his-
reason, but
I
yeah.
don't. I thought it was funny. I thought it was like really cool to see him with like an extra head talking to himself. I don't know. I feel like it is my spirit animal for like 2 seconds.
Right. Compared to the third one, I mean, the third one had a pretty decent story, but just not that great of a follow through.
Oh no, it didn't have an impact. Is the hard part for me.
Yeah.
Like it was good. I loved the whole Andy Warhol is like trying to turn aliens into supermodels and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
and he's not actually just an edgy artist. He's just a dude who like is trying to hide the fact that aliens exist and they all are just ridiculously hot according to, human beauty standards of the time.
At the time. Yeah, of the
yeah,
time.
at the time. Yeah.
But we are
So-
most certainly not going to go into Mib International. Have you actually seen it?
Yes, I have, and I was so horribly disappointed because I love the Hemsworth. I really
I
like
actually
Hems-
and I actually it was Tessa Thompson, right? Was that the female lead?
Yeah, no, they were. It was literally the cast of Thor Ragnarok, except in MIB.
Okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, it didn't have that great of a delivery. It had so much potential.
No, well, I like you remember the animated series, right? For Men
Oh
in
yeah.
Black, like that
Which
was
the
amazing.
and the animation was so weird because it was like halfway between like typical cartoon and then Beavis and Butthead, like thin
Yeah, it
lines.
was it was a lot is more angular than a lot of cartoons at the time.
Yeah.
But I think that's because they were trying a more comic book esque like run of
Mhm.
cartoons as opposed to like like if you were to compare it to cartoons that were out at the same time. I'm trying to think like what was out late 90s. I
It
feel
was
late
it
90s,
was
early
I think it
2000s,
was
right?
mid to late 90s if I'm not mistaken. Like
Yeah,
96, 97. No, no, it
yeah,
has to be later than that. 98 to yeah, 98 to 2000. I would say
yeah,
between those cuz I think the
yeah.
first one came out in 90. I think the first Men in Black came out in 97. I'll fact check that right now.
Yeah.
Um but yeah.
Like all I know is like I feel like there was so much potential for Men in Black International. You got it right,
I
97.
got it right. So the first Men in Black was 97 and so that means the series I think came out immediately after and that would have been 98 if I'm not mistaken.
I
98,
feel like they
99.
only had like one season though because I remember like watching it on I think it's Kids WB
Yeah,
or
it
like
was. And I think the big part of it too, the reason the animation style was the way it did, it definitely felt like if the Matrix made an animated series, that those two would be able to like they would be able to mesh. Because think about the
did they
style.
do that with like the Animatrix? Wasn't that something pseudo related to that or am I like drawing straws?
So the Animatrix is a series of mini episodes of things that happen in the world of the Matrix.
Oh, it's like
Uh,
Halo Legends or like Star Wars
Visions.
Visions. Yeah,
Well,
okay.
Star Wars Visions is a little more out there. It's just very anime inspired. Like I don't understand why people didn't like Star Wars Visions. Like there are some things that I absolutely loved from it, but
Mhm.
I guess it's the fact that it wasn't like true lore that people didn't really like about it.
Well, I mean,
Um,
I think they're trying to get a younger audience to like Star Wars, but I think every time they try to get a younger no, younger audience to like Star Wars for things that aren't actual Star Wars, you
mhm.
alienate the people that are diehard Star Wars
Yeah,
fans.
it's the reason why people love the Clone Wars and Rebels, right?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't gotten into depth with Rebels because funny story. I was out yesterday for one of my other best friends. My best friend up here in oh no, sorry, down here because Caleb is up there. Down here in Los Angeles. Any don't know if he's going to be listening to this, but I'll let him know. But one of
Shout out
his
to any.
great guy, great guy. Happy his birthday is actually today, and I'm being that
Oh,
dickhead. Yeah, I'm being that dickhead where I'm not texting him or sending him anything or acknowledging him today because we celebrated his birthday yesterday. We went to Medieval Times, which was super dope. I don't know if you're familiar with that, Caleb.
no,
So
no.
so it's Medieval Times Tournament of I think it's Tournament of Kings, but Tournament of Kings is the one over at the Excalibur in Las Vegas. So something tells me I will be going there again. But it's basically the way it sounds, Medieval Times. So it's like it is a dinner and a show where the show is you watch horses, knights, like do jousting and swordplay and fighting like that. And there's a small story. I mean, it's very much so catered to kids. But when the idea was thought up, and I was there when the idea was born, but I didn't throw the idea in there. But it just sounded just right. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
we're turning 30. Let's go to medieval times. Let's have some quote unquote ale, or and eat with our hands and watch hilariously like maybe their
Cheesy
other show.
choreography.
Oh yeah, it was so cheesy.
It's somewhere between Monty Python and like actual sword play.
Yeah, I mean there are parts where like the choreography were like was like super dope because you hear the banging, the clanging of swords. Actually, you see sparks flying, so it's like okay, it's pretty cool. Um, there is a movie that actually shows what it actually is. It's an old Jim Carrey movie. It is called The Cable Guy, which came out in the 90s. I think it was before I was born, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was like 91, 92. Um, but there is a part where Jim Carrey is the cable guy. He's the basis of that movie is that he's just this one dude that didn't really have friends and his life was around TV. So for those of you that like to give your kid your iPad and have them be obsessed with whatever they're watching, well, either if it's Paw Patrol or like something on YouTube, um, kind of watch that and see like the repercussions because it kind of touches base. Like it's like ahead of its time when it came to stuff like that.
Well, yeah,
Um,
well, like there's a lot of early 2000s like media that basically said people are allowing TV to raise their children. And
yeah,
like that is even more so today with the prevalence of smart devices and iPads and everything. And it's
YouTube.
just so easy to let a kid, like I was raised by television. I know for a fact I was raised by television, and I can
Me
quote
too.
so many things off of TV, and I haven't physically watched cable television in probably 10 years. But, like, there's any number of things from cable TV that I will always remember. Like,
Yep.
that own a permanent space within my brain. Like, Mike Rowe, Dirtiest Jobs, Mythbusters, like, anything Science Channel Discovery, and then all of the Saturday morning cartoons I watched as a kid. You know, Wings Club and like all the other like great shows, Do Re Mi, all the other things, the Americanized like Japanese shows. Like, yeah.
And see, I'm very surprised that that stuck with you because the things that stuck with me when it came to that era are no longer prevalent, and those are commercials. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
the Toys R Us kid commercials, the
I'm a
the
Toys R Us
McDonald's,
kid.
yeah, the McDonald's commercials from the day, like back when advertising actually was creative and thoughtful as opposed to just we're going to have a focus statement about this one thing that's really bad and we're going to try to change it for the better.
Manscape. I
I don't know.
mean,
Okay, so there are some really great commercials out here, like Henry's Razors, like the Daily Wire and stuff. They did that, or any of the other things that have happened all over YouTube that have just been blowing up here and there.
fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah,
Very fair. Um, now I'm so confused on how we got here.
well, we went
Oh, we went Men in Black
Men in
to
Black cartoon.
Men in Black
Well, actually,
cartoon to the Matrix to
yeah,
Visions. Okay, all right. Let's gather our composure. Let's breathe.
yeah. Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back to the real topic of what we were discussing.
What were we discussing? Um. Oh,
Before,
Medieval times. Medieval times. There you
yes,
go.
medieval times. There you go.
So yeah, so we went to medieval times, and what's very funny is that prior to that, um, the day before, I ended up going to the Renaissance Fair, and for me being as big of a nerd as I am, like I have stuff ready for almost every era of like clothing starting from the 50s to like futuristic shit.
Uh huh.
Renaissance, medieval, piracy, not in my wardrobe. That's like one whole category of nerd fandom, fantasy fandom that did not breach my closet. I am very much so a Star Wars kid because of that.
Yeah, te- it's really hard to be historically accurate with all of that clothing and stuff because they don't make anything like that the way they did. Like, I'm not talking about like the finery and the silks and the things that like the aristocracy had and stuff. The average person was wearing like just shy of a burlap sack.
Yeah, true.
Like when you're talking the Middle Ages between 500 AD and 1500 AD, throughout the entirety of the quote unquote Middle Ages. Like, obviously, the Middle Ages has expanded now because of how much time has passed since the last time we were referring to the Middle Ages, which was around the turn of the millennia. So, like,
Yeah. Yeah. No.
now
Agreed.
it's
Agreed.
now it's like 511 AD to 1520 AD or whatever. And the Middle Ages are only going to keep expanding to include the Renaissance and the Industrial Revolution eventually as time progresses, because that's the quote-unquote most accurate depiction of European or chronicled history we have.
Yeah.
In
No, I
the
agree
West
with that.
at least.
I agree with
In
that.
the West at least, because although there's a lot of Eastern history that has been like throughout China and through like Japan and the larger portion of Eurasia, like Turkey and the Middle East, they all have their own separate histories and stuff. It's really hard for historians who don't speak the language to translate certain things correctly. So the sheer number of times we have this battle was fought by this person who died 200 years before them. Like, it happens all the time. And no one's alive to correct it.
No. Nor is the history. We only have what was written.
Yeah, what
Right.
was documented, and not
What was
there
what
are
was
whole
No, go ahead.
there's whole civilizations that never actually came up with a written language. Like there's I mean, technically speaking, Hawaiian doesn't have a written language. It's just
No.
English fit to their verbs and vowels and consonants to the best of our abilities, but even then it's wrong.
And also at the same time too, we think about like what was purposely written versus what actually happened. Because
Oh yeah, yeah.
right?
History is his story specifically. I mean, if you look in Europe, the only people who could read or write were the very wealthy or the enlightened, quote unquote,
Right.
enlightened. The people who were
And
literally having to copy down the Bible over and over and over again. Or
how many
like,
overs? Maybe one more.
several dozen overs in different languages, mind you. I mean, I can't remember the last count, but more recently they've kind of found that the Bible that we know today has been translated back and forth from the original text, quote unquote, its original source, like over 60 times. And if you take one sentence and translate it into 3 different languages via Google Translate, eventually you'll get, alphabet soup at the end of it. You're not even going to get a real sentence. You just get some conjugation of verbs and nouns and tenses.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the fact of the matter is that this like collection of stories is as old as it is, and even remotely holds the same, I guess, tenor or premise is kind of amazing. So, good job them. But
Yeah. Yeah. And then
Uh,
lastly, it's like who say, and it's usually the ones who are able to articulate and write has their say versus what actually happened. I mean, you see it here nowadays, right? You see stories torn, stories written, and stories, or I say stories, but history written in a different way than it actually can be.
well,
That's
yeah,
why.
and then there's framing to be said. Like you
Yeah, oh,
can
yeah,
get
definitely.
like staying out of the news, like staying with just like current events, depending on whose take you're following. It could be the greatest thing in the world that Elon Musk just bought Twitter, or it could be the end of everything we've ever known.
What's your hot take on this? On this new discovery that literally happened a handful
Today.
of hours. Well, a little more handful, but like a handful of hours ago.
Essentially a handful of hours ago. I think it's the great. I just think it's awesome. Like who like we all talk about Jeffrey Bezos, and we all talk about like these really really rich people in the world. Warren Buffett. We talk about like all the bigwigs, the Rothschilds, and like all basically everyone who owns everything. What have
Hmm.
they ever done that could potentially actually benefit the people? Elon
I
Musk
can't
has
give you an
actually
answer.
done, yeah, Elon Musk has actually done things that could potentially benefit the people.
He stirs the pot a lot, though. That's
Oh yeah, like he is a shit disturber. Like he is the
oh, very
biggest
much so.
shit disturber. Like he started out with almost nothing, right? He went to like college and whatnot, and then he started PayPal. He sold off PayPal, and then he became like the richest South African in the world. And then he became one of the richest men in the world.
Right. So as soon as you said that, I was like, I have to check something real quick. I checked crypto prices, and they're going up.
Oh yeah, no, like Bitcoin's up
Anything,
like
well, yeah, but anything Elon does, if it
oh
benefits
yeah.
somebody, it's always going to go up.
Oh yeah, no, like I think Twitter or not Twitter. It is Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, he got Twitter.
Yeah, no. So I think Twitter stock is going to go through the roof until it becomes private. And then as soon as it becomes a privately owned and traded company as opposed to a publicly traded company, things are going to start changing overnight. And I'm really excited to see like what it does for open discourse.
Oh, that's true.
Like because for a while now, it's anybody who says anything, even jokingly, uh could be, banned or shadow banned or just essentially silenced from the internet or the public forum of discussion. So a lot
Yeah.
of people, like the people who are trying to champion really meaningful causes, like right to repair, they've been kicked off of Twitter before. And the people
Yeah.
who are trying to champion uh, uh, workers' rights and things like that, things that really make sense and would actually benefit people, because they Twitter gets kickbacks from large companies that like to advertise. They don't want people sharing ideas about,
Hmm.
how could they collectively bargain without being in a union. They don't want people sharing ideas of how they can make sure that their voices are being heard in a way that is applicable to everybody.
Right. No,
And you
absolutely
can
right.
you can have cordial discourse without devolving into hatred. Like, and I think that I'm not going full Simpsons, Elon Musk, the man from the future who came to save us all, or the man from Mars, or whatever they did. But like, I honestly think that there's the possibility that Twitter could be changed for the better.
Yeah. No. I hope so. I mean, it's interesting because Twitter is very much so a space of how do you explain it? It's like even still now, it's kind of a wild west, right? Like,
Uh, it's a it started out as the free speech wing of the free speech movement, right? It
right.
started out as being this place where anyone could say anything to anyone because you could at anyone.
Yeah.
Now, it's a little bit it's really censored. Like you can't say certain phrases, you can't say certain people's names without being banned entirely.
Mm.
Like unless you are a blue check, in which case if you're blue checked, you can say a lot of different things and even attack people, like actual like liable. You can actually libel somebody, which is like the difference of defamation. So
Yeah.
defamation is spoken, libel is written. Um, you can actually libel people if you're a blue check, and Twitter will just allow it to happen. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
mind you, there are like actual violent protests that are organized on Twitter that aren't taken down, but the second somebody starts talking about something that Twitter doesn't like, gets Thanos snapped out of existence.
That's true. And that's the argument about what Twitter is doing now, right? The whole
Mm-hmm.
censorship and you know, initially the whole freedom of speech was allowed to do what it was allowed to do, and
Well,
now,
that was the idea. Like, it's better that a million people with bad ideas are heard, so that several million people can see that those are bad ideas.
Yeah.
Like, I would rather have somebody spouting nonsense about, the flying spaghetti monster so that I can find out why I believe, in the flying, cotton candy monster.
Mm-hmm.
Like, first of all, he's sweeter. Just makes sense.
Wait. What you want sweet over savory? Are we gonna start? We're gonna start some Twitter beef. We're gonna start
Well,
some
I
Twitter
mean,
beef right now.
yeah, sweet versus savory. No,
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
it's the tomatoes. Tomatoes that give me heartburn. You know what doesn't give me heartburn? Cotton candy.
But you know what? You know what cotton candy does do? Cotton candy gives you cavities. So I mean, pick your
I
tomato.
would argue you could totally get cavity. I mean, first of all, cotton candy doesn't contain any acid. So, tomatoes, they're acetic acid or glutamic acid even. So, between the two of them, which is more likely to actually rot a hole through your teeth? I rest my case.
Let's tweet about that. But when it comes to the whole networking, connecting type thing, the most interesting part is because we're about to go into another tangent. I end up talking to someone that I don't know if you're familiar with, but he used to work with me over at said music venue up in Portland.
Okay.
Are you familiar? Are you familiar with Josh? I don't remember if you remember Josh.
I think I might have met him once. I think he might have introduced me to him when, like, opening doors or whatever, or something like that. But I don't remember Josh particularly.
He has a deep voice and he loves doing Hank Hill impressions. I don't know if you remember that.
Okay, I think I remember that. So I think I know who you're talking about now. Okay.
He always wore a black baseball hat, and he always
Okay.
wore like that was the signature. It's the black baseball hat, blonde blue eyes. We kind of
Hank Hill impersonations. Damn,
Hank Hill
Bobby.
impersonations. What? Yeah. So yeah. So I reconnected with him. He is doing very fantastic. He is actually doing a very good job over in your neck of the woods because he works for Intel. So
Oh yeah, no, that's actually really interesting. Intel's been hiring like mad up here, which is
But
insane. Like,
he started as soon as like pretty much after I left. After I left Portland and moved back to LA, something snapped. I guess the friendship of me holding the glue together for a lot of people at that venue were just like, what am I going to do? I need to do something better. Like,
yeah, no,
because
but
I realized. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, no, same, very similar thing happened at my previous work place before I moved over to working for the Zone. Yeah, I can't remember how much I've actually divulged to the our adoring public, but yeah, apparently at my previous employer, after I left, morale dropped so far that they actually had to like do a emergency hiring of like
Oh,
people to
really?
try to get enough people to stick around.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no, my buddy, who is a supervisor on the other side, not on my actual company side, but the company we were subcontracted to
Mm-hmm.
side. Yeah, he said basically no one that I know is still there.
Wow.
Yeah, and like I left there back in December. Or
Okay.
no, late November,
No,
early
it
December.
was a little earlier. It was a little earlier.
Yeah, late November, early December is when I actually left working for them, and then like it was actually kind of insane to hear about all of that, and that all happened within like a month or two of me leaving. Now, I'm not gonna say it was because I left, because that would be like very like all about
Yeah.
me, but it's not. That's not the reason. I just happened to be one of the straws that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, yeah, and that's very much so how it felt like when I left the music venue, because people were starting to dissipate and remove themselves from the venue. I think there may be like one. Well, obviously, all of the higher ups are still around, but like from my cohort when I first started, I think there's only one or two people
Management
still
never
there.
leaves. Management
No.
never leaves. That's
Yeah.
like rule one of any business. Management never leaves.
Yeah. And the crazy part was that I think I had an opportunity to be part of it, but we talked about it very briefly. Not, I don't know if we talked about it here, but I didn't want to do that. You know, I
Uh
didn't
huh.
like the fact that those that did get bumped up were literally pumping in 80 to 90 hours a week, like, and making mere dollars. Like, sure, they were hourly, but like the amount of time that they put into it, I was not wanting to do that because it shouldn't
It
have been there to begin with.
Yeah. Well, first of all, that's not security. Isn't It's a career, but it's not a growth career.
Right.
Like you're not going to become like yes, you could in theory just hop companies until you're the head of your own security company in
Right.
theory, but
Right.
like it's not a growth career path. Like you
No.
could in theory start your own security company after you've learned everything and whatnot and try to
Mm.
grow your security company that way, hire more people to work for you, blah 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 blah. You could
Yeah.
do that. But
Yeah.
it's a saturated market
Very much so.
and it's an
But
unappreciated saturated market. So it's not an actual growth market. It If anything, it's dying out with less and less government regulations. The necessity for security is going down because security can do less and less every single year. Their
yeah.
hands get more and more tied.
Yeah, but also at the same time too is just my opportunities over there. Like obviously, you know how I am with my personality. That
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't stay there. Stay there in that position. I mean, that's also one of the main reasons why I left,
Uh
right?
huh.
But because of how the company actually is, I know that there was room for growth in other fields within that big company.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I mean, right now, one of my roommates, she's taking over. Well, she's the head audio director. I can't remember her exact title, but our roommate, she's the head of that company's audio like tech stuff. Like
so
she does
she's
it.
so is she taking over Jay or taking over Bill? Do you know or recall off the top of your head? I don't know who's still
Uh,
there.
yeah, I don't I think because she doesn't work at the Crystal, she works Lola's without getting too detailed.
Okay. I'm okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I
no, so many
I
layers.
understand. I understand, but I'm just like thinking about it cuz of the venue itself. Okay.
Yeah, it's really
It's
confusing. I've tried to listen and I've tried to put it into perspective. All I know is she works way too hard and doesn't get paid enough.
Oh no no no. That was the majority of that building, unfortunately.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah, 100%. She works way too hard, way too many hours, doesn't get paid anywhere near enough, and she's supposed to be like the head of an actual department. And how does
yeah,
that work for a company that's that big? I don't know. All I know is
it's
it's
there are some pros and cons, and unfortunately some of the cons end up having to do with entertainment rather than the other departments and the other directives that that company has.
hmm
Because that company is not just one all be all; it's a bunch of things under one giant umbrella.
yeah, and a lot of their properties keep losing money. Like they bleed money, and it's disgusting if you actually follow it. I'm so glad my sister finally left them.
Oh, I'm very happy because unfortunately, like as fun and as opportunistic as that position would have been, the cap. There's no cap. Oh no, there is a cap, and the cap is not
Uh
high
huh.
enough.
Yeah, no,
That's what it
and
is.
and you would have worked for how many years to even get to that cap? Whereas inflation and just the area going up, cost of living going up the way it has been, you physically can't earn enough to get ahead of inflation.
Right, and that was that was the big thing. That is still
Yeah.
the big thing, and it's not just with that company.
hmm No,
It's
no, that's everyone right now, right? Up here, down there, all of America is kind of hurting right now, and I
yeah,
really hope that I hope that we get a strong leader in all of our local all of our local elections that can help us turn it around. Somebody who's charismatic, somebody that will actually get people to start working, because we have all of these amazing hard workers that are just doing nothing right now because no one wants to hire hard workers who have morals and
Yep,
who
and they
have
like to keep it. Yeah, they like to
yeah
keep it local. Unfortunately, they like to keep it local,
yeah
um, within the company, and in certain lines of work that I've experienced, nepotism.
mm-hmm
Unfortunately,
yeah,
and you could see it.